So today's presentation is going to talk about the basics in terms of preparing a budget. Last week, we were really in depth as a matter of fact, I think last week we went an hour and a half.
Sure did.
That's how important financing is, right?
Yes, sir.
So today we're just coming back and we're just going to do some basic general principles based on all that information that you receive. So let's start with you reading what are the generally accepted principles.
Number one, a budget is a plan for expenses, cost, and revenue, where money will come from. Number two, as plans change, so should a budget with respect to the agency's budget modification procedures. Number three, revenue and expenses should balance. Number four, rely upon past budget performance and finance figures. Number five, when creating a budget, typically it's recommended to start with expenses, then revenue. Number six, give the most attention to identifying and accounting for regular expenses, staff salaries and benefits, rent and utilities, insurance, travel, training. Cost sharing. Number seven, cost sharing among programs should be fair and consistent. Number eight, prorate and appropriate expenses fairly to program and administration whenever possible to avoid appearing top heavy.
You don't want to appear top heavy because top heavy could send you to jail. It's just like you double dip.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be very careful about number 8. The other thing is that revenue and expenses should balance. That should income and expenses to balance. If expenses is more than income, what do we have?
Expenses more than income?
Right. We probably need to close our door.
Yeah, you bet.
We ain't got enough money. We don't have enough money to operate.
No,
now,
that's right.
It's gonna be strange, but when you're doing putting together a budget, the best thing to do is to start with the expenses.
Okay.
As to how much is it gonna cost you to do what you do. And based on that, you can start to develop actually the proposal. Let me see where they talked about that. I just saw them talk about that. Hold on.
Okay.
What is that clause they talked about? Don't see it. I saw it this now. But what's most important, you start with the expenses and then you go to actually the program itself. Now, when you're doing a grant, there are certain qualifications that you need to adhere to. In this section right here is called Budget for Grants and Proposal or Application for Funding. One of the things to talk about is to look at the big picture and share them with the details. Unless you're asked for a lump sum. But most times they ask you to break it down. Computers, salaries. Almost never do they ask you for a lump sum. They always ask you to break down in terms of the detail. And it's necessary that you provide a budget narrative to explain unusual expenses. So remember we talked about a budget narrative. What is a budget narrative or a budget justification? Do you recall?
To justify
Yes.
why you're
exactly. You got to justify why you're buying that computer.
Mm-hmm.
You got to justify why you're buying office for your furniture for your office. All that stuff has to be justified, although it's obvious, but you still have to justify it. Now, you should attribute technically or typically 8 to 15% to your administrative costs and your oversight. So if a budget is $100,000 and I'm going to put together 10% for administrative costs, what's that going to be?
10,000.
Exactly. Which means that 90% is going to go to the program. 10% can come to what we call administrative costs. That's why every time you write a grant, a percent comes off for your salary, and it's called administrative costs.
Oh, gotcha.
That's why you begin with having the conversation with how much do you want your salary to be? And once you identify what your salary to be, then you go, here's how many grants I had to get in order to combine them together to get me the salary I want. Let's say, for example, 150,000. So you say, okay, I want to bring $150,000 back. So that means that the grants that I'm going for is going to have to be able to, at the end of the day, pay for my salary.
Gotcha.
And trust me, it can be done. Okay, you want to make sure that all finances in the budget proportion of grant application matches the agency budget, program, and projected annual budget. In other words, all numbers have to be the same. They have to balance. Another thing, always seek the funder's permission if you need or want to use grant monies differently. What that means? Let's say, for example, you go to grant for computers, for 9 computers, for $900, when you go to grant. However, you did a deal with Best Buy, and Best Buy said, I like what y'all doing. I'm gonna give y'all all these computers free. So now you want to go back to the funder and say, well, that amount that we allowed for 9 computers, can we move that to another column? For example, you might say, hey, I want to increase my salary, so can we move it over to this particular column right here? So it's going, normally you don't want to modify that budget, but sometimes it becomes necessary for you to modify that budget. And in that case, when I tell you about the computers, you already allotted that money, but now you got free computers.
Yeah.
So remember we said, you don't want to double dip by getting more computers, right? So what you're going to do is say, look, we want to use this money now for something else. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay, let's continue that. Well, that's it for this because there wasn't that much information on here. So let's go to the next one. Any questions related to that presentation?
No, sir.
Excellent. Look, it's getting to the point now, all this stuff is just repetition for you. What you learn is repetition.
That's how you learn it. Yes,
now,
sir.
When we talk about the budget and planning a budget, the first thing we want to do is the first section is going to be personnel related expenses. That's where you want to talk about your salaries and the wages for the program.
Okay.
Estimated merit system. What do you think they mean by merit system?
The merit increases. What you earn kind of thing.
Well, yeah, in a nutshell, that means that what you're saying is that, hey, my people, we want to have a 10% increase every year. And that 10% increase is going to be made based on what they did. We're going to use a merit system. That's how they get an increase the next year. Okay, you want to estimate the cost of living. Have you ever heard of COBRA? I
heard of it. I didn't know what it was.
You're familiar with that. Because one of the things that happen is that as you begin to do your nonprofit, you want to be able to estimate the cost of living. Well, what does that mean? Well, in 2019, the cost of living was at 6%. Well, in 2020, COVID, the virus came. And now the cost of living has gone up 16%. So you need to be able to justify the fact that, hey, we got to increase the cost of living because of that.
Is that like inflation?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, definitely. You got it on a nutshell. It's unusual for the numbers to go up so high, but that particular virus was unusual. It caused everything to go upside down. So a lot of people are reassessing what that budget looked like for 2022 based on what happened in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Then bonuses. So one of the things you want to do to keep your employees is to have a bonus. They get bonuses. Maybe at 6 months, they get a bonus. This is show that you care about. And guess what? You figure that in the budget. You put that in the budget in terms of bonuses. But guess what? Let's say this year nobody get bonuses. What happened? Now you want to ask the funder to use that money for something else.
Something else. Yes,
You
sir.
see why it's important that sometimes you start out with a budget, but things change. So you just don't want to go and make that change on your own. You have to contact the funder. And most times they're going to let you do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the other thing you want to take into consideration is the increase in legal minimum wages. I think Florida just raised their minimum wage to, I'm not sure what, but whatever it is, it's not that much.
Is it
But,
like $10?
huh?
Is it like $10 or something?
Yeah, $10. In order to live in Florida, you need $35.
Exactly.
I'm serious, man. And you can see what they raised it to $10. Yeah, the only thing $10 is gonna help is a juvenile that don't have a job and want to do a summer job. But
Yeah.
a real adult, it don't happen that way. But because of that, you have to adjust your budget. So if Florida decide in July to increase it to $10 and it was $7, then you're gonna have to write the funders. You're gonna say we have to do a budget adjustment. The numbers we gave you was based on $7, $7.10 an hour. However, the state of Florida has raised that minimum wage, which we must adhere to because it's illegal, and we must adhere to it to $10. So some kind of way you got to make that difference up. So you can relook at your budget and say we're going to pull this and this in order to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Always be cautious that whatever budget you set out, it's going to be changed.
Gotcha.
That's why we start with the projected budget. And at the end of the year, you do what's known as the actual budget. The actual budget is going to show what the actual budget was. You start off with, this is what we think it's going to be for the first 12 months. And during that end of the year, you got to do an actual budget. Almost never, the actual budget doesn't really match up with the projected budget because there's so many changes that's being made. Not only that, you might, during that time, have gotten a grant that you wasn't expecting. So your actual budget now is going to be way more than your projected budget.
Mm.
Okay, are you familiar with, and then union management, but I don't think you ever going to get that big where you're going to have a union, right?
Right.
But if it was a big corporation, they got to take into consideration, well, what's going to happen if the union decide that compensation needs to go up? So you need to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But most I know nonprofit have this thing called union management. That's just like big corporations. Okay, fringe benefit. So what is a fringe benefit?
Something the employees get that's not in their salary.
Excellent. Look, you remember everything, right? You remember everything. That's right. That's what a fringe benefit is. For example, it's not required that they give you health and dental insurance. It's not required that you give them life insurance or your 407 or daycare. All this stuff is called fringe benefit. When you do your budget, when you come up with the total number of your personnel budget, you want to multiply by 7.6%. to figure in your friend's benefit dollars.
FICA.
Yes. Now, some of this might or might not refer to you. For example, I don't think you're going to have your organization, nobody have to wear a uniform.
No.
But in some organizations, they do. They wear uniforms, they wear footwear and all that stuff like that.
Mm.
And then you want to look at employment ads, drug screening. People don't even take this into consideration. But these are the things that you should include in your budget. For example, when you hire somebody, you want to make sure they do a drug screening, and you got to make sure you got money for that. And you also want to make sure you got money to do a criminal background.
Yes,
Because
sir.
you write somebody in your organization, let's say, to work with you, and we find out a year later that same guy that you hired had a criminal record, and he was touching people. So that's why it's important that you include that in your budget, that background check. And the other thing you want to include is that drug test. You want to make sure that people working for you don't have a drug habit. So you definitely want to put that in there. And then any license verification that you need to put in there. And then, I don't know, are you going to have 10 employees part-time, seasonal, or are your employees going to be full-time?
Most of them are going to be probably part-time.
Good. Well, you put it in your part-time, and just in case you might have seasonal employees, and then whatever full-time. So you're going to have a mix of part-time and full-time, so that's going to be good. And then you need to put down consultants and contractors. That's going to be important.
Yes, sir.
That's why you put me in there. When
Yes,
you
sir.
write your budget for consultant and contract. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's where that goes in, right? Right in that section right there when you go to write that grant.
Consultants.
Yep, and contract, because you might have contractors that let's say you got the building, and you find out that the building that's a problem with the roof. Well, you have to bring in a contractor to fix that roof. So that's why you want to put in money for consultants and contractors.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then some cases for volunteer costs. One of the things you should do, in addition to having paid employees, you should have volunteers that work. Okay. But you should have like gift cards for them because they put in all their hours and they're not getting paid. You might have a special dinner. You might have money for awards, plaques, and all like that. So you want to consider that in your volunteer costs. Okay. You don't want people volunteering and not get something in return to show that you appreciate them.
Gotcha.
Also, you also want to include other personnel needs that might be part of that.
Okay.
Now we come down to facility-related expenses. And a lot of people mess up when they do this. They don't put in the correct amount of rent. They assume what the rent is going to be. When what you should do is have a conversation with that person that's going to rent out that building to you. So you got to choose a number as to what that number is going to look like. And you want to also put in your budget in one section, and it's going to be called misdemeanor money for increases. Because the rent is going to go up. So you always have this pot of money called misdemeanor that you can pull from to do anything you need to do to make sure the budget is balanced. And of course, you can't be in the building without utility, including gas, electric, and water. You got to figure that in. Now, how do you determine what your electric bill is going to be and what the water bill is going to be? If you purchase, now if you rent in a building.
You got to go to the like the landlord, don't you?
No, you can go directly to gas and electric and say, hey, how much did this particular organization pay for electric? How much did they pay for gas? And you go to the water company. How much did they pay for water? Now you got an estimate of what it's going to cost.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to do it on a yearly basis. You have to project for the whole year. Let's say you assume that this building right here is probably, I'm gonna put in $2,000 for electric. And then when you went to the electric company and you put in that address for past tenant, they showed no, they paying at least $5,000 to $6,000. So that's how you don't want to guesstimate. You want to know exactly what the cost is, and it's based on whoever occupied that building prior to you.
Gotcha.
That's how you get your numbers.
Prior occupation.
Yep, definitely. And then you got to deal with telecommunication, phone, fax. Now, what kind of fax do you use?
I got it's a fax on my printer.
Yeah, most people do. I got what's called my fax. Have you ever heard of my fax? Any fax that come in, go to my email. So I actually don't have to have a physical, although I do have it on my printer all in one. The thing is that when you do that, you save on paper.
Okay.
Because it goes directly to your email.
Now, is that something I have to sign up for?
You sure can, and guess what? Right now I pay $10 a month. Because I don't get no more than 500 faxes in a given month. You know, I might get, man, in a given month, I might get maybe about 30 pages. But the bare minimum is $10 a month for 500. So let's say, for example, you asked me, and you said to me, Mike, I want you to fax me this. And then you're gonna give me your fax number that you get from my fax. So they're actually gonna be calling into your fax number, but instead of going to the fax machine, it's gonna go to the computer, which is gonna go to actually send you that email with the faxes.
Do you go to myfax.com or something?
You go to, and I'm going to email you it. It's called, oh God, I almost forgot. Myfax.com.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see if I can bring it up now. That's how important it is. Hold on 1 second. And a lot of people don't even know about this. Because you know what happened? You run out of ink. So what happened when you run out of ink when a fax is coming?
Yes, sir.
You see my point?
Now you gotta run up to Kinko's someplace.
Exactly, man. Okay, it's my fax. Hold on 1 second. And the other thing is that you don't have to worry about, it costs money when you print stuff. So you don't have to worry about buying copy paper for printing. Related to fact, it costs you. I mean, it saves you big time. Let me see if they give me my fax. Let me enter. Okay, let me come out of this and come here. So you see what's on my screen?
Yes.
See, it's online faxing service that help you get the work done anywhere. And see, they have different prices. Let me break down what that pricing is. I told you I use this one right here, $10. Wow. On the other hand, when I move up to more, then I'll get to $20. And when I move up to even more, I'll move up here.
Okay.
But right now, I'm not getting no more than 100 pages like 10 pages here. Somebody else might fax me 3 pages. Somebody over 4, but it never exceed 100 pages per month. That means it's $10 per month. Yeah, definitely check into this because it saves you ink. And when you think about it, at some point, when you keep on using your printing machine, what's going to happen?
We'll mess it up. It's going to wear out. We won't need another one.
So this is an awesome way to save money. So you don't have to worry about people faxing. And not only that, you can even fax them by way of email. You go to your account. Let me show you something. I think I can show you on my account. Let's see if it's going to let me go to my account. Okay, here it is, right here. You see do you see my account? So check here. When I want to send a fax, I just click on this. It's kind of slow. And I put in the name of the person I want to send it to, the company, the phone number, the recipient cover letter. And then what you do, you go to your computer and you copy the file you want to send. It's that easy. Let's say you want to send me a proposal that you was doing. Then you go to my fax, you come down to the bottom, you hit choose a file, you go to your computer and you upload it. As simple as that.
Gotcha.
Because I think this is so important, that's why I stopped for a second. This is show you that. But we almost finished on this section right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So the rest of the stuff, this breaks down. Oh no, that's not the one I want. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, this section right here. To finish up with the with this facility related expenses. So you don't have to worry about the fax machine. In fact, you can do your own fax. But
Gotcha.
sometimes you do. So you have to worry about information, monthly charges, long distance charges, all that. And then furniture. You want to, when you furnish your office, try to get furniture that is reasonable, not cheap, but not expensive either.
Okay.
And make sure you, when you're going to get furniture, you have to have 3 bids. So you might go to, for example, what's that? Amazon.
Okay.
Then you'll go to Best Buy. And then you'll go to, what's another big company that does furniture? You can go to Walmart. You want to show that you looked at 3 prices, and the cheapest prices was whatever the cheapest prices is. It's important that you get 3, when you're dealing with federal money and government money and grant money, you have to show you're not spending, but you're getting the cheapest deal possible. Okay. And again, they go into contractual services. You don't have to worry about snow removal. But from where I'm from in Baltimore, we had to put in snow removal because you definitely needed to remove that particular snow. And then you have maintenance and cleaning. I don't know. Are you gonna have a full-time janitor or a part-time janitor?
Probably have a depends on where I start. If like if I'm at the mall or something, I might have a part-time janitor.
Good.
And we get our
good.
own building. Yeah.
Good. Because depending upon your office size, you don't necessarily need a full-time janitor.
Right.
On the other hand, let's say you branch out and then you got like 30 employees. Well, that's different. Now you're gonna really need a full-time janitor. On the other hand, if you put in your budget for a full-time janitor, and you only got 3 employees, funders are not gonna look favorable on that.
Gotcha.
And then you want to deal with any equipment leases fees that you might have. For example, when we was in West Tampa, we got this copying machine. This copying machine was like what, $13,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, very expensive, right?
Wow.
So we had to prorate the monthly feed amount when we did the budget. But the beauty of it is that if we decided like 2 years from now that we no longer want this contract, we can always get out of it.
Gotcha.
But this copying machine we had did everything. It did everything. The most important, it produced documents that were very professional. The same document you would have to go to a Kinko or something like that to get.
Wow.
So because we was going after the big grant, that's what justified an expensive copying machine.
Okay.
As opposed to having maybe 2 or 3. But at some point, you really want to invest into a very expensive copier fax type of machine that can do all kind of, that can print not only regular paper, but any kind of paper you put in there, it can be produced. Okay, and then maintenance, repairs, and inspection. Make sure you put in extra money for maintenance that might come up.
Okay.
If you own the building, that's important. If you don't own the building, you can always ask the landlord to do those necessary repairs that need to be done. And then other expenses include supplies, letterhead, and all that stuff, office equipment. Make sure you distinguish between supplies and office equipment.
Okay.
Supplies is like letterhead, envelopes, paper, and toner. Office equipment is what we call hard type of stuff, like a printer,
Okay.
a copy machine, and something like that. Okay, and then make sure if you're doing any dues or membership, you don't have to worry about that because you're not doing that. But this is important. Make sure you put in for travel when you do your budget. So if you got to travel like from here to Miami, you write that off. So make sure you put it in your budget.
Okay.
Even when you have to park, make sure you put that parking ticket, you get a parking ticket because your corporation should pay for it. You should be paying for nothing. Everything goes back to the corporation. So if you're going somewhere and you need to park, hold on to those tickets so at the end of the year, you know, you can show how much you spent.
Got you.
And sometimes you want to travel to New York because it might be a conference. So make sure you put down travel expenses, maybe like $5,000, $6,000 for travel expenses. Because you got to pay for hotel, you got to pay for everything you're going to eat, your food and everything. All that stuff got to be figured into it. A lot of corporations don't do this and they get in trouble.
Okay.
The reason why they get in trouble because they say everybody's going out to get more knowledge than us. We're the only ones staying home, but every other company is traveling all over the United States because they didn't put travel in their budget. If it's not in your budget, you can't do it.
Can't do it.
Yeah, so make sure you put travel in that budget. Because if you're going to be a true competitor, you need to go out for training around the country. So you can get the best practice information that's out there.
That's right.
And then you want to put in for marketing and advertising. 20% of your budget is going to go to marketing and advertising. Because if nobody knows who you are, I don't care how good your service is, or nobody's coming.
Yes, sir.
So you make sure, and then you want to do fundraising. So you want to make sure you got enough money in your marketing and advertising budget, at least 20% of whatever your total budget is. So if it's 100,000, that means 20,000 you're gonna put in for marketing and advertising. It's another thing a lot of nonprofits forget. They forget to put in posters when you send out something. You should include that. And when you're shipping something out, you need to include that in your budget and delivery. And if you need to hire a courier, all that stuff will be in your budget. I've seen so many nonprofits that when they didn't put in the things that we talked about with you, they went under because they couldn't afford it. It wasn't in the budget.
Wow.
So you know what? They had to go into their pockets. I'm kind of way supplementing. And I tell folks, look, do you know what OPM is?
Other people's money.
Other people's money. That's the thing I tell everybody. Other people's money. Why are you going to pay for this? Use other people's money. And that's why you want to make sure that you're able to not, at the end of the year, have to come out your own pocket. And the only reason why you didn't come out your own pocket, because when you was asking other people's money, you didn't include it. So guess what? Now it's your money. I'm laughing, but I've seen people cry. I'm serious, Charles. I've seen people cry, man. Oh my, I didn't expect this. I said, you know what? You didn't do your homework.
Wow.
But yet, little things like that, you'd be surprised, Charles. Little things get you all the time.
Woo.
The little things that you forget about. So you're so focused on the big things like salaries. You're forgetting about the small things like copy machine, like traveling, and all those, like a website. There's another example. Most people don't put in for a website. But if you're going to be an organization, you want to have a professional website.
That's right.
And you don't want to do it yourself because you're so busy trying to save the world. So you put it in the budget and you hire somebody to do it. And you ain't getting nobody to do a website for less than 5,000. That's going to be really good. So that's why you want to put it into your budget for the website. Guess what? The funders will pay only if you put it in there. That's the thing. If you didn't put it in there, then you go back later and say, "Can I do a budget adjustment because I didn't consider this?" They can say, "No, absolutely not. Not for those reasons, right?" As a matter of fact, guess what, Charles? They're gonna put you on the bad list. They're gonna tell other funders, and these funders meet every year, and they talk about people that mess up.
Wow.
So you don't want to be on that list of them talking about. What you want to be, Charles, that nonprofit, that guy right there, we never have a problem. He always balances out his budget. He never comes back for extra, and he actually spends the money for what he say he's going to spend it for. Now, the funders are not going to tell you they're talking about you, but they are talking about you because I've attended some of those meetings.
Wow.
And I heard them talk about organizations that I know, but I didn't say anything, right? But they're talking like a dog about it, right? So they be like, don't ever fund this organization right here, right? Wow. And people don't know when they go back for a grant and they're trying to figure out, wow, why is everybody getting a grant for me? Because they didn't talk about you bad, right? So you better understand the grant world. You better understand how things operate. And then, Charles, make sure you include in your budget special events. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, you decide, look, these young people did so good, we're going to give an outside event in which we're going to highlight everything that they're doing. And we want to do a special event, so you can put money in there for special events. For us, we use it for festivals when we try to do outreach. So we'll rent out a park, we'll get some booths together, so when people come, they know more about us. And it's called special events. So again, organizations in the past have not included this, and they have to come out their pocket.
Wow.
I always tell folks, include everything. Everything.
Everything. Yes, sir.
And now we come to what's known as general operation, and administration. This is called indirect costs. This is where you get your money from. Your consultant, accountant, and all these people get their money from what's known as indirect. That's why we're going to spend probably about an hour and a half when we talk about indirect and what's included in that particular expense. So, do you recall what indirect expenses are?
Everything that's pretty much not dealing with salaries and that kind of stuff.
Kind of. Indirect expenses is anything that you're paying for that's not included on the direct service. In your organization, you will bring on trained people to work with the young people. That's called a direct. That's called a direct payment. On the other hand, Charles, you're gonna need a lawyer to make sure that you're not being sued. That's called indirect.
I got you.
It's something you need, but it doesn't directly help your clients. But it does help the organization. For example, you need an accountant to run your books. You need an audit. You need a touring, evaluation. All this stuff is called indirect expenses. You have to be able to distinguish between direct and indirect expenses.
Attached to services.
Excellent. Okay, Charles. I told you we were gonna have a short class. No, it's not. It's 3:53. Even when I tried to get on earlier, I don't. God have mercy. I know we're gonna be over with at 3:30, man, right? I talk too much, Charles. That's what that is, right?
You like
so, you know what I'm asking. Here, let me cut off the recording now.